welcome to part 2 of making oxtail. So it has been 24 hours later. Here is our oxtail, and I'm just gonna give you guys a glimpse as to what it looks like. So this is how it turned out, and this is what you want, and all of that beautiful liquid we want to keep. So first things first, I have my oven on at 350. As you can see, I have a nice casserole dish, and then I also have my pan here, and we're gonna start off by searing our oxtail, and this is the first part of the braising technique. So for this part, it can be really smoky, and it can also just be a lot of like what you would say burnt bits in the pan, but that's really good because that's where all of the flavor is at, and that's what's going to continue to keep deepening that beautiful color for the oxtail. So for this part, I would definitely turn on your hood if you have one over your stove at home. And for this part, you also want to have your pan piping hot. Now, never turn down the temperature, just keep it super duper high, and as you go, you may need to add more oil as you continue to sear, but other than that, we're just gonna get started. So I'm gonna add a good amount of oil. So for this part, you want to leave all of your herbs and aromatics inside the container. The only part that you really want to focus on is having your oxtail. So we're just gonna give this a minute to heat up. Quite honestly, I really miss having a gas stove. I really don't care for electric stoves because they don't have the same effect as a gas stove, but we're gonna make it work. And when I buy a house, it has to be a gas stove at this point. So I'm just gonna rotate my oil, make sure that the whole pan is nice and coated, and we're just gonna give that a minute to heat up. Alright y'all, so our pan is nice and hot, and I'm gonna try and make sure I speak a little bit louder than normal just because the fan is on. And we're gonna put in our first oxtail. So for this part of the process, you don't want to move your oxtail around too much. You just want to let it keep going for about 2 to 3 minutes on each side, because you really want to lock in all of that flavor. And you're going to sear on all sides. Now, most importantly, to get a good sear on your top and your bottom half, and where your fat cap is going to be at. And then the rest is really not that important, but for me personally, I like to sear them on all sides. So you just let it sit, keep your heat high, and as we go, I'm going to show you what you're looking for and what color you're looking for when you're flipping them over. Now, pro tip, whenever you're searing any type of meat, or if you're sauteing or anything like that, you want a hot ripping pan, your oil to be nice and hot. But most importantly, when you're searing, you want there to be space in between any of the pieces that you're searing for your meat, whatever you're searing, because you want to allow that water content from the food to be able to escape, and that's what's going to allow for you to get a nice crisp on it. But if there's too much food in the pan and everything is close to each other, there's no moisture escaping, and then you're not able to get a proper sear, because it's starting to drop the temp of your pan, and the heat is what's key to getting a nice sear. So we're just gonna let this sear do what it has to do for about, like I said, minute and a half, 2 minutes, maybe even 3 sometimes, depending on the piece. But just let it go for itself. Pour yourself a glass of wine, crack open a beer, whatever you like to do. Get your Capri Sun. It's your world, and I'm just in it. So as you can see, it's been a few minutes, and now it's time to flip over. And this is what you want your oxtail to look like. Now I know that looks kind of crazy, and you like, oh my gosh, like, girl, that is a burnt piece of meat. But baby, it's really not. Just follow the instructions. Alright, so that is the color that you want to look for. You're going to continue this process with all your oxtail and searing on each side. And then we're going to place them in here and add the remainder of the ingredients. Now we have all of our oxtail nice and seared off. And what we're going to do now is we're going to just saute our vegetables just a little bit. Now we're just going to saute them just a little bit just to get those flavors going and to wake up all of those aromatics. But we're not really doing it to cook them down. We're just going to do it, just like I said, to wake up all of those flavors and to also deglaze your pan. So now, as you can see, all of those burnt pieces are coming up. And we're just going to let that cook for a little bit. So for this part, I'd let it cook for like a minute, 2 minutes. Just because, like I said, you just want to deglaze the pan, get those spices and herbs and all of that other stuff, you know, to awaken. And then we're going to add that and coat that with our oxtail. And then after that, we're going to add some beef broth. We're going to add some ketchup. And the ketchup adds for a little sweetness. So you want to add it until you're able to taste some of the ketchup in the liquid. And then we're also going to add butter beans. And with the butter beans, you want to take the liquid off of the butter beans and just put just the straight butter beans inside your pan. So at this point, this is good enough for our vegetables. Like I said, you just wanted to put it in there to kind of really, you know, just deglaze the pan. So I'm gonna remove this off the heat. Give the stove a good wipe down. Turn our heat off, because this can get quite messy. And so now that we have that situated, I'm going to bring our oxtails to the front. And now we're just going to dress our oxtail with all of our aromatics. Okay. So now we just want to stick those peppers in between. Stick all that sauce in between. And that's perfect. That's how that should look. Add our beef broth to the pan. And you want to add enough where it covers the oxtail. So with the ketchup, you want to make sure that you put a good amount. Now you don't want to put too much, because you don't want your oxtails coming out like super duper sweet, because ketchup can be kind of sweet. But just enough where you can kind of taste the ketchup. And then you want to take that ketchup and mix it right in. And make sure you get everything settled in. Okay. And then I also have some butter beans, and we're just gonna add a can of that. And like I said, this really helps bulk up your recipe. Those butter beans are gonna be delicious. They're delicious now because I love butter beans. They're so buttery, as it says in its name. But you want to get those butter beans in there into your nice broth. So you want to get those butter beans into your broth, because what's going to happen is as this cooks, those beans are going to take up all of that flavor, and it's just going to be marvelous. So now this is your final product, and this is what everything should be looking like before it goes in the oven. And what you want to do is cover your pan, and then like I said, you could go between 300, you could do 300 or 350. I'm doing 350 today, and we're gonna cook this for 3 hours until it's nice and tender. And now that this is nice and covered, I'm going to stick this in the oven, and then I'm going to check back in with you guys for the final product. Alright y'all, so this is the finished product and what you want your oxtails to look like. And I've got some sides prepared for the family, so I'm going to show you how I like to put a plate together. Alright y'all, so there is the finished product. We have our oxtail and all of the ingredients that we put in it. We also have some sauteed cabbage with a little salt, pepper, and sugar, some coconut rice and peas, and some fried sweet plantains. And this is how I like to prepare my oxtail. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.